The hidden frequency of Hedy Lamarr. 1. In the rarefied atmosphere of Beverly Hills, where dreams are manufactured like ikebana, fanciful yet destined to last for a day, Miss Hedy Lamarr awoke at precisely 5:30 in the morning. The sun, not yet committed to its daily indiscretions, loitered at the horizon like a bashful debutante, veiled in a haze of Californian apathy. Her bed, lined with Egyptian cotton sheets of an offensively expensive thread count, was less a place of rest and more a stage, one from which the celebrated actress made her daily entrance. Her first gesture was neither a stretch nor a yawn but the grasping of a compact mirror, angled toward a face that had launched 1,000 sighs and earned perhaps twice as many false friendships. The face stared back with impeccable symmetry, a Hellenic cruelty preserved in celluloid amber. No puffiness, she noted with relief, inspecting the eyes that men described as hypnotic and which editors described as highly profitable. But behind them, the abyss gazes back. There was something thoroughly un-American about her, a European fatalism tempered by Viennese precision. She rose from her bed not as a woman but as a system of calibrated decisions. Across the marble floor, which chilled the soles of her feet like a rebuke from a forgotten lover, she glided toward her vanity, the altar at which she daily sacrificed her identity. The mirror awaited her with all the tyranny of a god who expects perfection but offers no forgiveness. The ritual began. Cold cream applied in spirals, rouge triangulated according to the golden ratio, lashes elongated like the Gothic spires of an Austrian cathedral. This was not vanity. It was engineering. Beauty, in her estimation, was a form of optics. Light manipulation. Refraction. If the world desired illusion, she would give them perfection as punishment. Beauty is a form of genius, she recalled a critic once writing, is higher indeed than genius, as it needs no explanation. How perfectly, maddeningly wrong that statement proved to be. Her beauty required constant explanation, endless justification, perpetual apology. Meanwhile, her actual genius remained as invisible as good intentions in Hollywood. 2. The Gospel according to Mayer. The bath was drawn in blue salts, a chromatic defense against puffiness and a symbolic baptism before the day's charade. One sculptural leg rose from the water, as if to remind the gods of their own obsolescence. She smoked a cigarette with the poise of a pagan priestess, exhaling truth veiled in aromatic deceit. At precisely 7, the telephone rang with all the subtlety of divine wrath. "Hedy, darling," came the voice of Louis B. Mayer, sounding as though he had just swallowed a cigar and regretted nothing. His voice crackled through the wire like a poorly tuned radio, which, incidentally, she could have improved with a few simple modifications to its frequency modulation system. 10 o'clock screen test. Mysterious, sultry, but not too cerebral. "We can't have the boys frightened." She applied mascara without blinking. "Of course, Mr. Mayer." Beauty with just a dash of plausibility. Mayer chuckled, unaware that he had been parried. How exquisitely modern. A world where desire and intelligence were considered mutually exclusive, where beauty and brains cannot coexist without causing scandal. She had become quite expert at being scandalous in all the wrong ways. And Hedy? No more of this inventor nonsense to the press. Cookery and shopping are quite enough, thank you. Klieg. She poured her second glass of lemon water and her first dose of chemical compliance, benzodrine. It suppressed her appetite and her inclination toward honesty. Both were inadmissible in her line of work. She contemplated the supreme irony of her existence. She was paid handsomely to pretend to be stupid by people too stupid to recognize that she was pretending. 3. The domestic equation. Her children were asleep upstairs, sweet, uncurated moments of tenderness. Jamesy and Denise knew nothing of frequency hopping, studio contracts, or the uncanny rage of a woman mistaken for a statue. They loved her for the softness of her touch and the warmth of her voice. And for that, she loved them. Little Jamesy would climb onto her lap, trailing the sweet scent of innocence and graham crackers, caring nothing for box office receipts or the mathematical elegance of spread-spectrum communication. In their presence, she was neither actress nor inventor, but simply mother, the only role that required no performance. "Tonight we read stories," she promised, brushing Jamesy's hair. "Real stories. Not the ones I have to tell the world." "Mommy, will you invent something for me today?" Jamesy would ask with the casual expectation of miracles that only children possess. "Oh, darling," she would laugh, straightening his cowlick, "Mommy doesn't invent things. Mommy just pretends to be other people." Even to her own child, she lied. The habit had become so ingrained that truth felt like a foreign language she once spoke fluently but could now barely remember. Motherhood was the only stage upon which she was permitted to improvise. 4. The Studio of the Absurd. The drive to MGM was conducted in mechanical silence, during which she calculated optimal torpedo guidance patterns while also wondering whether her lipstick would withstand the humidity. On set, she was transformed into that peculiar creature known as a movie star. Part goddess, part commodity, entirely artificial. The photographers circled like well-dressed vultures, demanding that she embody every man's fantasy while remaining safely unthreatening to every woman's self-esteem. The photographer barked, "Mystery, Hedy. Dangerous, but not clever." She tilted her head with practiced despair. "Yes, of course." Like a chandelier over a guillotine. They adored her. They admired her. They never listened. "Think mysterious," the director would call out. "Seductive but innocent. Intelligent but not too intelligent." She arranged her features into the prescribed expression while mentally calculating the optimal trajectory for a radio-guided torpedo. The irony was delicious. While appearing perfectly vapid, she was solving problems that could revolutionize naval warfare. If only the Nazis knew that their most dangerous enemy was hiding behind the carefully constructed mask of Hollywood glamour. During takes, she mouthed her lines with the right ratio of breath to brilliance. Between takes, she scribbled equations on the backs of scripts, spread-spectrum diagrams disguised as marginalia. The other actors assumed she was taking notes on her character's motivation. If only they knew she was motivated by the elegant mathematics of frequency modulation, not the pedestrian emotions of fictional ingenues. The makeup artist adjusted her foundation, oblivious to the fact that Hedy was adjusting the future of wireless communication in her mind. 5. The Feast of Emptiness. Lunch was a cigarette and a doctor-prescribed capsule of aesthetic compliance. At lunch, the studio doctor dispensed his usual pharmaceutical wisdom: white pills to keep her thin, others to keep her docile, still others to maintain the alabaster complexion that photographed so beautifully under klieg lights. She had become a carefully calibrated chemical equation, balanced for maximum visual impact and minimum intellectual output. "To preserve the figure, darling," the studio medic said. "Intelligence adds pounds." She laughed politely and considered a eulogy for the intellect. A journalist intercepted her near the commissary. "Miss Lamarr, your hobbies?" She delivered the prepared lie with elegant regret. "Oh, I adore cooking, shopping, romantic fiction." The lie slid off her tongue with practiced ease. What she truly adored was the beauty of a perfectly balanced circuit, the aesthetic pleasure of solving an impossible problem, the almost musical harmony of frequencies dancing across the spectrum. But such admissions would be as unwelcome as honesty at a dinner party. Inside, her true answer itched: "I am inventing a way to make war obsolete. But thank you for asking about soufflés." The reporter scribbled dutifully, preserving her fabricated mediocrity for posterity. She had become quite accomplished at being underestimated. It was perhaps her greatest performance and certainly her most lucrative. The day progressed with all the genuine spontaneity of a Swiss timepiece. Costume fittings where her body was discussed like a piece of architecture, all curves and angles, measurements and proportions. Script readings where she spoke words written by men about emotions they'd never felt. Photo sessions where she posed like a beautiful object while her mind raced through calculations that could change the course of history. The supreme joke was that she was simultaneously the most observed and most invisible woman in America. Millions of people looked at her, but nobody saw her. They perceived the carefully constructed surface while remaining blind to the revolutionary depths beneath. 6. The Electric Sepulchre. Dinner was endured at a table of titans, none of whom knew how to spell frequency modulation. A producer with teeth like piano keys boasted about box office numbers and maritime acquisitions. She nodded politely and imagined how electromagnetic interference would affect sonar on his yacht. At last, she escaped. Home. Sanctuary. The false panel opened like the gates of paradise. Inside, circuits, blueprints, and the music of resistors humming in their private rebellion. This evening, as every evening, she retreated to her true sanctuary, the locked room where she kept her real treasures. Not the jewelry that adorned her throat in photographs, but the blueprints that could strangle enemy communications. Not the furs that graced her shoulders at premieres, but the frequency charts that mapped unexplored territories of the electromagnetic spectrum. She poured vodka with the grace of a chemist and picked up her soldering pen. Here, she was no longer Hedy Lamarr, the enchantress of the silver screen. Here, she was a priestess of potential. Here, surrounded by oscilloscopes and slide rules, she became her authentic self. The vodka burned away the day's accumulated pretenses, each sip dissolving another layer of performance until only truth remained. The problem of miniaturization returned like a suitor too bold to be discouraged. She sketched. She computed. She cursed George Antile fondly and wondered if pianos could be persuaded to think. She spread her latest calculations across the mahogany desk like a fortune teller reading cards, except these cards predicted the future of communication itself. The frequency hopping system grew more elegant with each iteration, more beautiful in its mathematical precision than any film she had ever graced with her presence. The military had rejected her frequency hopping system. A pity. They preferred their ideas uniformed and male. The solution was crystallizing, becoming as clear and perfect as a baccarat goblet. If signals could leap across frequencies in predetermined patterns, they would become virtually impossible to jam or intercept. It was an idea of such devastating simplicity that it bordered on poetry. But she knew, with the bitter clarity that came from living in a world that worshipped appearance while fearing intelligence, that this breakthrough would be dismissed or ignored. Beautiful women were not supposed to revolutionize technology, they were supposed to revolutionize hemlines. She worked until her fingers smudged graphite across equations that shimmered with promise. 7. The broadcast. She paused to gaze at a photograph, herself, in low décolletage, smiling at a party where everyone had mispronounced her name. "Let them keep their illusion," she whispered. "And let me keep my truth." The system she had built could alter the course of war, revolutionize communication, and rewire the spine of modernity. But no one listened. Not yet. She was not a muse. She was a mechanism. A frequency. A transmission. The world heard only beauty. But beauty was the static that masked the signal. It occurred to her, in this moment of crystalline intoxication, that she was living the most exquisite paradox of her age. She was famous for her beauty and infamous for her intellect, celebrated for her appearance and suspect for her achievements. She was the living embodiment of society's confused relationship with female genius. They wanted their women beautiful and their scientists male, and heaven help anyone who dared to be both. And still, she broadcast. Epilogue, the undecoded signal. Midnight. Silence reigned. The clock struck midnight, that most romantic of hours, and she was alone with her equations and her vodka. Tomorrow she would wake at 5:30 and begin the elaborate masquerade once more. She would be photographed and interviewed and desired and dismissed, all while carrying in her head the mathematical keys to the future. She filed her notes behind the panel, cloaked in the aesthetic of discretion. Tomorrow, she would awaken at 5:30. She would be desirable, obedient, marketable. But tonight, she was free. In the darkness, she murmured to the stars, to the future. I am not your dream. I am your undiscovered science. I am your unacknowledged architect. The hidden frequency pulsed, eternal, undetected, and utterly indestructible. Here's to you, darling, she whispered to her public self. Keep them distracted while I change the world. The frequency continued to broadcast, patient and persistent, waiting for a world sophisticated enough to tune in. Until then, she remained beautifully, brilliantly hidden in plain sight, the most dangerous woman in Hollywood, disguised as its most decorative. After all, the best place to hide a revolution is behind a pretty face. Nobody suspects the beautiful woman of harboring dangerous thoughts. They are far too busy looking to bother with listening. And so she broadcast on her hidden frequency, hoping that someday, someone would have the wisdom to listen not just with their eyes, but with their minds. Until that day arrived, she would continue to be gloriously, defiantly, impossibly both. The face that launched 1,000 fantasies and the brain that could sink 1,000 ships. The most beautiful lies, after all, are always wrapped around the most dangerous truths.